Hello everyone, welcome to the first Lightroom video tutorial. My name is Daniel and I'm the photographer behind the website Canvas of Light. Today I'm going to show you how I took this pretty dark, boring, colorless photo that I took along a river in the south of France into this using only Lightroom. So let's get started. Okay, so I have my file open in Lightroom in the Develop module. This is how I have my Lightroom set up. I only use the right panel. All the other panels, the top, bottom, and the left one are hidden. They're collapsed because I never use them. And if I need to access them, I can just click on this little arrow to open it, do whatever I need to do. And I just like to have as much space as possible to work on my photos. And this is the only panel that I use to edit my photos. Alright, so this is my original photo. It's I was taken in France in winter. I want to stress the importance of shooting in RAW. This is a RAW file. What I'm going to do today is going to be very difficult if you're working on a JPEG image. I highly recommend you just shoot in RAW if you really want to edit your images. It's going to really make a huge difference in your editing process. Okay, so the first thing that I always do when I'm working on pictures is I scroll down to the lens correction and I check these first two boxes. They're going to correct the distortion and vignetting that is introduced by the lens, the different lenses that I use, and also correct the chromatic aberration. So this was shot with a Sigma 10 to 20 millimeter lens. It's pretty wide and it has a lot of vignetting. So if I just click on this checkbox, see, all the vignetting is gone. So I am probably going to add more vignetting later in the process, but I like to start with a clean image and I like to have control in how my vignetting is going to look and where it's going to be positioned. So I just like to clean it up from the start. So the next thing I'm going to do is remove the chromatic aberration. If you look at the picture here, you can see that there is a very faint green edge and a very faint purple or magenta color edge along the branches, and this is called chromatic aberration. So to remove that, I just need to check this box and they're gone. It's very subtle, but it can affect your images, especially if you're printing them. So this is done. Okay, now we can start working on the image. It definitely needs to be brightened. So I'm going to push the exposure to, let's say, plus 50. Alright, I have enough details in the shadows. I still want to keep it a little dark because I like this contrast between the very bright areas and the shadow, but we still have details on the trees and everything. Plus 60 or plus 50 is enough. But the problem here is that the sky became too bright. To remedy that, I'm going to use the highlights slider and tone it down to, let's say, minus 70. Yeah. All right. So what the highlights slider does is it only affects the brightest areas of the image and it does not touch the shadows. On the other hand, the shadows slider does the opposite. It actually only affects the darker parts of the image and does not touch the brightest parts. So now we have our sky properly exposed, but I still want to add more details in the shade because I like those leaves to stick out. So after the highlights, I'm going to open the shadows now, and I'm going to use the shadow slider, not too far, plus 60 should be enough. Now we really have a lot more details in all the darker areas. You can see on the trunk here, and the leaves are much brighter. Now if you want to compare the original image with what you have right now, you can just press the Y button and you'll have them side by side. So far we can see that the image is much brighter and I like it the way it is right now. So the next thing I'm going to do is add some warmth to the overall image because it was close to sunset and the light was much warmer. But because I shoot in auto white balance, my camera didn't do a great job capturing that the warmth of the light. So I'm just going to take the temperature slider and push it a little bit to the right just to make everything warmer. I usually add a lot of warmth to a lot of my pictures. This is how I like my images to be. So about 6,000, close to 6,400. That should be enough. Sweet. Now, I want to change the color of the leaves. This orange here does not please me. I want it to be a darker shade, maybe a little more towards the red. So I'll scroll down to the hue saturation luminance panel and use the hue panel to change the different hues of specific colors. So here I'm going to, because the leaves are orange, obviously I'm going to use the orange slider and make them a little more red colored. So if I push it a little bit towards the left, you can see that they're becoming darker and the color is changing to a more reddish color. I'll do the same with the red one to make it a little bit darker, not too much. Alright, so this is what it was before, and this is what we have now. I prefer this color because it just makes it a nicer image. Okay, now I still find the leaves to be a little dark. They were really backlit, so I'm going to add some luminance to them. I'm going to go to the luminance panel and slightly increase the orange and the reds just to make them brighter, as if they were the light was really hitting them. So this was before and this is after. I like it this way. I'm still going to work on it, but so far I don't want to push the sliders too far because it's easy to go overboard. I'm just going to stick to this right now. If I really need to make more changes, this is the beauty of Lightroom. I can always go back to the same sliders and push them further or lower them, and it's not going to alter my image much. Okay, pretty happy so far. Now, I really want to make this central part brighter because this is where I want my viewers to focus. These leaves here and the ones here plus the sun, and the rest is a little bit distracting. Of course I want to keep the bridge too, but all these areas I don't like them, and I don't want the user to focus on this on the edges. So to do this I'm going to add more vignetting, but again, as I mentioned before, I want to have control on how my vignetting is going to look. So instead of using the profile correction or even the post-crop vignetting, because if I move this slider I can add some vignetting, but I don't want to do this. I'm going to use the radial filter. So if I click on the radial filter, it's going to open a new panel. I already have some settings. I'm going to just reset them. I'm going to draw a circle, not exactly a circle, an oval, around this central area. I want to really focus on what's inside the circle. So I can just play with the size, and if I want to reposition the circle, I just drag this pin in the center. So I want to focus on this area. Okay, my circle is positioned. Now I'm going to just increase the exposure a little bit and highlights. So you can see the central part is much brighter now. If I turn it on and off, you see it's like the sun is really shining and the leaves are really lit actually. Now I brighten the central part, but I also want to darken all the rest. So it's pretty easy. I'm going to put my hover my mouse on the pin, right click, and select duplicate. So it's going to create a second, the same radial filter on top of the older one. If I drag the pin, you can see that there are two pins now. The bottom one is the older one, and this is the new one. But I don't want to add both on top of each other, of course. So the reason I created the second one is because I want to keep the same dimensions and everything. So what I'm going to do is now invert the mask. And what this does is, instead of selecting the interior of the circle, it's just going to select what is outside the circle. I just inverted the mask. And now I'm going to dial the exposure and actually do the opposite. I'm just going to darken everything. And let's say to -60. And now you can see the difference. The central part is much brighter and the edges are much darker. Right, I might go to the older pin, just click on it and maybe increase it a little more. All right. Okay, it's starting to look pretty good. Let's compare, let's close this and compare the before and after. All right. Quite a nice change so far, but I still want to work on it. Now looking at the image, I still going to use the radial filter, and I'm going to add a smaller circle just centered around the sun, which I'm going to brighten a little bit and add a lot of warmth to it, because I just want to make it shine through the leaves with this beautiful warm light and this kind of halo. Because I increased the exposure, it adds some halo and maybe a little bit of the shadow. All right, like it so far. So I'm done with the radial filter, enough of it. All right, no, maybe I should just go and tone it a little bit down. I think I went a little bit too far with the exposure. Add more shadow. Okay, this is good. Now, if I want to increase this backlit effect on the leaves, what I can do is use the adjustment brush. I'm going to click on it, and now I'm going to have a brush that I can paint with, and I'm going to focus just on the leaves. So I can just basically paint if I want. Let's increase the exposure a bit, just to show you I'm pushing it a little further. So if I paint here, see the leaves are lit, but I'm also painting, I'm basically painting everything. I'm painting the trunk, I'm painting whatever is in the background, and I don't want that. So I'm going to delete the pen. And what I'm going to do is use auto mask to just paint on the leaves. So if I click on it, I'm going to have this brush, and wherever I put my this little pin in the center, wherever the cross is, I'm going to zoom on the picture. So if I put it on the red leaves, it's going to just select and paint on the same colors and on the red leaves. So let's increase the exposure a bit. You see what it did here? It did not touch the background or the trunk, it just increased the exposure in the leaves. Of course, I'm not going to go that far. Let me tone it down a bit and maybe add a tiny bit of highlight. All right, so I can just paint on the leaves and make sure my little cross is not going on another color. So if I click here, you can see the little crosses on the background. It's going to increase the background, and I don't want that. So let me undo that. And I'm going to paint it here. I'm going to paint it here. And some areas over here. Okay. bit here, and I think we're fine. So let's see how it looks before and after. Yep. See, they're a little brighter. It's as if they're glowing. Actually, I'm going to tone down the clarity just to add a little bit of, glow to it. All right, I think I'm good with the brush. So, before, after. You can also click on the backslash if you have an English keyboard, because it doesn't work on foreign keyboards. If you use the backslash button, you can see the before and after on the same image. So this is before, this is after. I think I'm pretty happy with the image. The only thing I'm going to do right now is maybe add a tiny bit of colors in the darker areas. And I'm going to use the tone curve for that. So tone curve is an amazing tool. It's great to add some contrast. I can do an S shape to add more contrast to my photos, but I don't want to do that right now. You can actually select different channels. If I click on the RGB here, I can select the 3 different channels individually, and I'm going to try the blue one. So this is the blue channel. You can see the blue histogram on it. And what I'm going to do is just take the edge, the bottom left edge of the blue, and just raise it a little bit. See the difference? It adds a blue hue to all the darker areas. It just gives it kind of a, a vintagey Instagram look, I guess. But I like it this way. So I'm going to stick with it. So this is before the tone curve, and this is after the tone curve. Okay, and I think I'm pretty much done here. I'm just going to scroll down to detail. My photo is already a bit sharpened, and I'm going to add just a tiny bit of noise reduction, maybe up to 14, 15, because there's not much noise anyway. And there you go. I think I'm pretty much done, and I'm ready to export my picture. So I can right click on it, go to export, and export the size I want. I have got multiple presets, and voila. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope it was easy to follow. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section, and I'll try to answer as fast as I can. If you have any suggestions, or if you want me to do tutorials on specific things about Lightroom or photography in general, just send me your ideas and I'll be happy to look into it. And if you really enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel. I'm probably going to add more more videos in the future. And don't hesitate to share it far and wide on your social media platforms. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.